Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center in League City, Texas. Go ahead and share this out. Feel free to ask questions. If you miss or don't catch all of this episode, you can always go back and listen on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, search Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, or on Apple, you can just search Just Live Well. It'll pop right up. Here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. It's Kickstart. My name is Gardy, and I have a friend. I have a awesome guest in studio. We're going to be talking about health, nutrition, staying well, getting off medication. We're going to be talking about healing your body through food and not using medicine. There are alternatives that you can and changes that you can make starting today. So my good friend, Dr. Chapa, is going to be in studio, and we're going to have some fun learning, sharing some good information. Dr. Chapa, how you doing today? You look great. That shirt looks awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I've never worn this one before. I decided to knock the tag off of it and give it the old college try and see how it flows.
Yeah, with the Living Well.
Yeah, well, yeah. So
brand on there.
Yeah, my new aspiration is, with all the clothing companies on the market promoting their stuff, putting it right out there for everybody to see. I said, well, it works for them. It must work. I'm going to try it for myself and be proud of what I do. And, one of my biggest business tips is every day tell somebody who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we give all people alternatives to drugs and surgery. We give people alternatives to living sick, living with symptoms that they weren't genetically born with. We like to teach people how to live better, be better, and stay better through food, through detox programs, through cleansing programs. We do all kinds of cool things to help maximize the tissues in the body so that when those tissues come together, they synergize to create organ systems that work the way God designed them to work so that you don't have to suffer with the ails of aging, quote unquote, because I'm just so tired of hearing doctors tell patients, well, that's just what happens when you get older. Oh, it's just normal for you to have brain fog and not be able to think through your day and to need an afternoon nap. And it's just the way it goes, that your skin is wrinkly and that your hair's falling out and that you just are tired, and you can't sleep at night and you snore and all these symptoms. Like, we just assume that because we've been told for so long that these are doomed destinies. Let's not go down the doomed destiny path. Let's look for a different route. Let's believe better. I've always said that, one of my mentors, Bob Marshall in Austin, God bless his soul, he's no longer with us, but a really brilliant fellow. He was a PhD scientist man, and he would always talk about the number one thing that you could take care of in the elderly population and was take care of their stomach acids. Because if you can't digest it, it doesn't matter how well or how quality of the food. If you can't break it down, you minimize your ability to absorb it. If you can't absorb it, you're only as good as the food you absorb. So you could eat the best quality food, not digest it, and still be deficient, still be on the slippery path to nowhere when it comes to health, vitality, and well-being. And so I've always appreciated that, but I've always asked this question. Why would God design a body where the stomach acids would wear out many, many moons before its expiration date?
And my answer to that would be, I don't think he designed it that way, but the things and the climate and a lot of things that we do to our own body and the atmosphere kind of has caused that.
So what I just heard you say is that something has changed in the way our bodies were thriving at one time, and they're wearing out. Did I hear you say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, because I agree with that. I think that that's exactly what's happening. Is the stomach, or in this case, the stomach is wearing out its ability. It's worn out its ability to produce stomach acids at a level that can keep up with the times. So if you're 55, 65, 75, heck, let's go even beyond that. What if you have acid reflux, indigestion, heartburn, GERD, and it always happens at night, or heck, any meal for that matter? These are your check engine lights that you're already wearing out or have worn out, depending on the severity. If you're on Tums, if you're on antacids, Nexium, if you're on any type of over-the-counter or prescription digestive aid because of some sort of belly pain, heartburn, indigestion, reflux, guess what? You've already worn out your tissues, and you are rapidly tearing up the tissues with those drugs. That is not the answer. Painting over rust never seems to work because the rust comes out. And it goes back to where we started. Now you're putting in all these digestive quote-unquote aids, but they're not aiding anything. They're painting over rust. They're sabotaging your chances for absorption. And now you're in a state of accelerated aging because you're tearing up the stomach and preventing it from ever having a chance to heal and preventing your body from ever having a chance to absorb maximally. And now you're always living in a bit of deficiency. Well, when you're in that deficient state, you're always feeling a little low because food by definition should give you energy. Food by definition should give you clarity. Food by definition should regenerate your body from the cellular level. All life starts and stops where, Gardy?
The cellular level.
That's right, Gardy. It's almost like you know this. How do you know this so well? I'm so proud of you. And at the cellular level, and it starts with nutrition. Good nutrition pushes us onward, upward, goodward, and Godward. Bad nutrition, poor choices, lead us towards destruction and despair in our bodies, and our body then leads to symptoms. Those symptoms turn into diagnoses, and those diagnoses lead to medications. Okay, that's not the end goal. That doesn't have to be the path you choose. You can go a different route, and that's exciting.
That is.
So then I come back to, okay, well, what is it that we do whenever we have these symptoms? Number one, we have to recognize that the symptom is nothing more than a check engine light. The symptom is nothing more than telling you, hey, something's wrong. We have to help you recognize that just because there's something wrong doesn't mean something can't be fixed, because anything your body can develop, it can
undevelop.
Man, you and I are like a duet.
We are.
I'm really enjoying this.
Can we sing or rap the rest of this?
I think we should.
The show?
I think if I will work on my lyrics, and we will bring a rap show to this game.
I'll bring the beat.
That's right, because you always drop a hard beat.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I can try.
And although we might get very low ratings that day, because it would be, because I just have struggled in the rapping industry.
We don't know until we try.
This is true.
It could be the best show.
Who wants to hear Dr. Chapa bust a rap one day? Notice I said one day, not today.
I'll settle for one day.
I definitely want to hear it too, because I believe that Chapa can bust a rhyme. So we look at this idea of digestion. The state of accelerated aging people find themselves in. Well, what other factors could potentially be causing our bodies to degenerate faster than it's supposed to? There's one very well-known substance that I would say, I've seen books that say this is the number one addiction in the world. This is the number one addiction in the world. This is the number one addiction in the world. Everything from the opiate crisis, the over-the-counter non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, the different types of painkillers and anti-inflammatories that are prescription-based, the endless shots to decrease people's pain. I've seen that as a definite causal link in the crisis at hand of addiction. A lot of people get put on these different painkillers after a surgery and can never get off. So there's definitely an addictive form there. I've seen there's a book that I just was Googling this morning called the Caffeine Blues, and it said the number one world addiction. Well, everybody knows that caffeine is addictive. I would say that nicotine is very, very addictive. I've said time and time again on the show that there is. I would rather take and I say this lightly, but I've had more success helping people addicted to drugs, okay, than and getting them off of those drugs than helping them get off of nicotine. Nicotine is very difficult. So I think nicotine's even, I don't know, just through my practice, I have seen it more challenging to break that addiction than it is to break other addictions. So what is the addiction of addictions, though? What drives it all? And I think that's kind of where I thought we might just kind of talk to a little bit today, because it's causing your body to break down. It's causing systems, not just your stomach, but all systems in your body to wear out and to break down faster than God designed it to break down. Yes, I know we live in a sinful world, and we're outside the Garden of Eden. You know, anybody that lives west of Eden, you know, we're in trouble, which is all of us. But what if we could control the aging process? What if we could recognize there are things that we could do day in and day out to enhance our body's ability to function well, live well, to vibrate well, so that we can like resonate with the world and impact the world around us with the energy, the vim, vigor, and vip that we all long for? Who doesn't want that? Right? I want it. That's why I come on the show every week, to share what I want with people and what I want for myself. And we're all going onward, upward, goodward, and Godward. We're all looking towards the end, saying, all right, what do I want my life to look like after I've built it? Therefore, I can backpedal and say, what do I need to do today to make tomorrow, the next day, the next month better? Isn't that a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to make sure that, you know, our mindset's right. We got to make sure that our water intake is right. We got to make sure that our breakfast is right. I had an idea in the shower. You ever had ideas in the shower, Gardy?
All the time.
And it's the weirdest thing. One of my mentors says he always gets his best ideas in the shower. I have a good friend of mine who, when he's in the shower, he draws up, get this, football plays for his Little League team. And you know what's interesting? He wins every year.
Yeah.
He's always a Super Bowl champ every year that I've seen him play. And I'm like, what in the world? And he draws up plays on the shower glass. And I'm like, I mean, I haven't seen this myself.
Okay.
He just tells me about it. And his wife vouches for him. So, but I just think it's fascinating. Like, why the shower? Why the shower? So I'm in the shower, and I'm having this idea. And I'm going, you know, I know what I should have done today. Because today I ran out of time. I mean, I was rushing a little bit because I foolishly decided, you know, my alarm went off at 5. I got up, took the dogs out. My wife was like, no, I want to sleep in 30 more minutes. So I'm like, okay. So I just kind of hopped back in bed, because I try to drag my wife with me on a morning walk on Tuesday mornings, because I think, one, it's good for her, but two, I really enjoy being with her. And it's like the cool of the morning where I'm walking with my friend. You know what I mean? I think of like Jesus and Adam walking together in the cool of the day. And it's quiet. It's still dark. And so I was like, I'm going to wait for her today. And so I crawl back in bed, and, 6:06 rolls around. That's an hour behind where we were supposed to be up. I was already up at 5 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And so I hopped back in bed. 6:06 rolls around. I'm like, this is crazy. So I still got her up. We went for our walk. So it was really nice. But then it was just like rush central from that point forward. So it was kind of like, that wasn't maybe good. So I go, how could I have done this morning better? Well, I could have had the bacon in the oven an hour earlier, because it would have had time to cool. It would have had plenty of time to cook and do the stuff. I could have had the eggs already ready under a pot lid. I could have had all that done by 6 instead of walking by 6:10. Right? Yeah. And I could have just started my day early, and still possibly even waited for my wife. Although the dogs really, they're like children, and they dictate a lot of what's going on in the morning, especially mine. And that's probably my fault, but whatever. We all have our issues. And so I'm thinking all these ideas on how I could have cooked the eggs better, how I could have, prepared the bacon better, how I could have made my wife's Brussels sprouts for her better because she's on detox. And just right now I had another revelation how I could have made those Brussels sprouts better. But anyway, we get these ideas on how to maximize our day. If we can maximize our day, and we plan the day, and then we implement the day tomorrow, we start seeing good patterns, producing good results. It encourages us to take another step forward. So, but we have to have the end and goal. What do we want today to look like at the end of it?
Yeah, it's interesting you break it down by the day, because you say, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want your week? What do you want your day to look like? You can take that and break it down. What could you have done better
in the last hour?
It next time.
That's right. And I think that's the game. Because I think when you're living on purpose like that, it helps you avoid, don't forget, I haven't forgot about that number one addiction. I like to kind of paint a picture of where we're at and then come back to, okay, what is that addiction? Because everybody says there's some number one addiction going on. Any ideas what you think it is?
My guess is sugar.
Yes, it is. You are reading my mind today. I mean, you and I are just like tapped in. I wonder how many other people thought it was sugar. Raise your hand.
Sugar.
Tell us, those that are in the live chat, if you thought the number one addiction was sugar. What was your number one addiction? We should have had them throw that up in there. And the reality is sugar is, by definition, the number one addiction that man can't break.
I think it's because we start so young. You can get it on every corner. It's in everything, even in things that you don't realize. And whenever you take it out, you notice. You have to be intentional to take it out too.
And and to your point that it is so in everything that most people think, oh, I don't eat sugar, because they're not piling a gobble of white sugar on their cereal in the morning. They're not putting it on their toast. They're not putting it in their coffee. Maybe they're, because they're like, oh, look at me, I'm a black coffee drinker versus, a latte drinker with, extra sugar
syrup.
and double pumps of syrup, right? And so we have to appreciate that sugar, to your point, is in everything. What are some hidden sugars that you find that you did not think you would find sugar in?
First of all, and I learned this from you years ago, is bread. If you eat bread, because you think even it's like carb or whatever, but you eat it and then your body turns it into sugar.
That's right.
So I have people in my family, I'm not going to name any names, but they're like, I'm not eating any sugar right now, but then they'll eat bread, and I'm like,
and not just one piece of bread. They have 2 pieces of bread, because you can't just have a sandwich with 1 piece of bread. It's just kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that turns into 1/4 cup of sugar.
And here's another comment. This is from Alexandra. She said pasta.
Oh, man, wouldn't you like to have some pasta right now, Gardy?
I mean, yeah, I could.
I mean, maybe not right now. I'm sure we could turn it. We could sprinkle it in like a tortilla and make
Let's
pasta
go.
taco.
Pasta taco.
Tuesday.
I'm not above it.
Yeah, that's right. And so, yeah, she's right. I mean, so pasta, and because no one ever eats like a half a cup of pasta, right?
Yeah.
You get a gargantuan bowl of pasta that is overflowing like a volcano. And that's what people reach for, and that converts into massive amounts of sugar. And that massive amount of sugar is in your blood. You always have glucose in your blood. I mean, it's a part of nature and part of the way everything works. Your brain operates on sugar. Cells need sugar. Muscles need sugar. Your liver takes in sugar. We convert sugar into stored sugar, glycogen. Our body is leveraging sugar to the hilt. So sugar in and of itself isn't like the devil, like that we propose it to be. It's the refining process. It's the high fructose corn syrup. It's the crystalline fructose. It's the high processing of sugar that creates the unnecessary inflammatory responses day in, day out, meal in, meal out. Because if you're eating cereal for breakfast, you're getting the cereal conversion plus whatever they sprinkle over the top, because 9 times out of 10, they put some extra stuff in there. That's why you keep going back to it, right? Lucky Charms aren't just lucky because there's little leprechauns running around. It's the sugar, baby.
It's the little cute leprechaun makes it so sweet.
I know, but I like chasing the rabbit tricks. He's a really cool one, and it's just amazing to see how much sugar we pile on that. But then you throw on the milk. The milk has got lactose. It's got a milk sugar in it. And that's a pure sugar. What if that's all you ate that morning, right? So it's not that you can't have a piece of bread, like a nest egg of sorts, but what if you could pick a better quality piece of bread? What if you could pick and make sure you add a protein to it? And so we're constantly trying to allow our kids to explore and create things, but we try to balance out the sugar because I don't know that my end goal for my kids is to never, ever, ever, ever eat sugar. I mean, yes, that is my end goal, but I don't know if it's realistic. Sooner or later,
it's sustainable.
Somebody's going to poison my kid. Sooner or later, my kid's going to discover the wonderful effects of how great sugar feels on their tongue. And remember, nothing below your taste buds necessarily want the stuff. Right? But it's everywhere, like you said. What else? Where else are you finding sugar? Because those are 2 hidden ones that people don't realize.
Here's another one. It asks, what about honey?
Yeah. Well, so honey is definitely going to stimulate, a sugar response in your body and conversion. So it comes back to, have you ever had those little honey sticks at the health food store or the farmer's market? And you're like, oh, those look good. And you kind of, peel the straw off and you suck that whole honey straw down, and you feel really jacked up on energy for 15 minutes, and then you've got like a headache after that, or you feel exhausted. That's because your blood sugar crashed. Well, again, I think dose dependent. If you just put, a piece of paper on a fire, and it burns up really quick. The paper's gone, and so is the fire. If you put, a paper in with a bunch of logs, and you use it as a starter to try to help prime the pump, it can lift the blood sugar really quickly. So if you're in a serious situation of low blood sugar, and we're not talking about those out of control situations today, we're just talking about the generalities. But even if you're quote unquote not a diabetic, not hypoglycemic, you're not even close to the, elevations that people walk around with in my office with sugar when they first come in. Those people they have a different situation on their hands. I'm talking about our kids, ourselves, that aren't necessarily having these blood sugar fluctuations. Sugar still has a pretty hard effect on your tissues. And when we put it in as an isolated form, it really stresses out the body. There's many books around this. Lick the Sugar Habit, Nancy Appleton. I just read another one called Sugar Crush, and I was like, man, I really didn't need to read that book. And then, but I read it anyway. And then Jennifer Withy was reading a book called Sugar Blues, and so she's kind of all inspired us to go read that. And I'm thinking, another book on sugar. Oh, I really need this. But at the end of the day, it's interesting the amount of hidden sugars that are out there, the amount of psychological distress that people are suffering with. How many people today especially today, are dealing with sugar blues, meaning they have depression. They are having mental breaks, mental fatigue problems. They can't concentrate. They are not task-oriented. Their mind wanders. They see a bunch of squirrels or shiny pennies and not their work. They're constantly daydreaming. They just can't seem to dial it in. And I'm going to tell you, it's because they're addicted. They are addicted to this substance, sugar, sugar, sugar. And so again, going back to, is the end goal to get off sugar? Well, yeah, but that would be like saying that we can get to the Garden of Eden today. It's just not going to happen. It's not. I've been in practice long enough to see people willpower it for a week or two, maybe even 40 days if you're, really ambitious. But sooner or later, you crack, and you just can't break the addiction.
Okay, so here's a couple other things, and I'll read Conrad's first. Conrad said, what are some things that can suppress the sugar addiction? You were talking about the Garden of Eden, which reminded me of fruit, and you've always talked about how food can be a tool, right? So that's this next comment. What about sugar and fruits? Is it okay to eat that to suppress the sugar addiction?
So fruit sugar is definitely going to be an upgrade, but understand fruit sugar, fructose, is only processed via the liver. So now, again, if we can go back to the Garden of Eden, I truly think that we are fruitarians in the garden. I mean, I'm convinced after reading through Genesis that we ate fruit before we were cast out. And that's heaven. I mean, that's bliss. That would be outstanding. But at the end of the day, in today's world, if you look at history, we ate fruit in season, right? Mm-hmm. Until we discovered canning, and then we figured out how to leverage fruit in off seasons. But even then still, it wasn't exact science. And now, today's science and technology, we have fruit, year round, 24/7. And people are only consuming fruit, and so there's a consumption problem. So yes, if you stick to your berries, if you stick to the low fruit sugar burden, we can post in this chat box for those live viewers to access the fructose burden chart. And that fructose burden chart, I think we can even in our YouTube put it in our links below, because what will happen is that you will see that if you want to get healthy, you should be under 25 milligrams a day of fruit sugar. If you want to lose some weight, it needs to be under 15, closer to 10. And we have a whole list of fructose burden foods. You eat, one banana and it's 9, milligrams of fruit sugar. And so it gives you an idea of how much can you consume in a day, and it puts guardrails up. We need to go back to understanding that fruit is available 24/7, but your taste buds don't need your cells underneath your taste buds don't need that fruit all day, every day. And most people, that's all they're consuming. When we talk about fruits and vegetables packed in, their daily allowances, they're not really using vegetables, because vegetables are what? They're a little bit more bland. We have to use a lot more spices to make them taste good, so that we'll keep eating them. And so yes, fruit is good, and fruit is anti-inflammatory. Fruit can be a benefit. Fruit has different nutrients in it, minerals in it. It's raw. There's so many cool things about fruit, right? Just remember consumption. If you're only eating fruit, or what if you're one that goes, oh, well, this is a fruit squeeze snack. Oh, well, now it's a processed fruit. Well, that's not the same as eating an apple. That's not the same as eating an orange. That's not the same as eating berries, right? So we have to kind of appreciate, are we talking about the fruit that doesn't have a label, or are we talking about fruit snacks? Because I don't want to mislead anybody, right? And so, but remember, if you have liver issues, what are some liver signs and symptoms? You wake up between 12 or 3 o'clock in the morning, or 1 and 3. If you have gallbladder issues and you are, waking up at night to pee, you are tossing and turning during the night, you wake up hot, kicking your covers off, those are indications for liver stress. If you're irritable all the time, if you're angry, more like a short fuse type person, those are all liver signs and symptoms. If you're resentful, of things, these are liver indicators psychologically. The connection of a weak liver to it, the psychology is phenomenal and wonderfully connected. And so it's important to recognize, well, where am I on the scale? How long of a benefit do you eat some fruit and then all of a sudden you're like craving it 30, 40 minutes later? I've seen kids, they'll eat, fruit and then they're hungry literally an hour later. Well, it's because it burns up so fast. It goes back to the paper in the fire versus a log in the fire. We need proteins, we need fats as our base log, and then we leverage these as little snacks throughout the day, but we don't expect them to carry us, 2 and 3 hours like we would a meal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Maybe something to help carry. Alexandra said that Jennifer told her to throw some frozen cauliflower in her fruit smoothie to get some veggies in there. You don't even taste it. Might as well get some veggies in with the fructose.
And remember last week we had the Premier Greens that had all the broccoli and the chlorella and the spinach. I mean, that's another. You could throw a teaspoon or a teaspoon and a half of that into your smoothie. And there's always ways to kind of leverage, or a handful of spinach. Just drop a handful of spinach in there. It tastes like nothing. And it makes it look green, so it might scare your kid. But, I mean, maybe put it in one of those stainless steel canteens with a lid on it and a straw, and they can't see it as easily. And they go, oh, yeah, it's not too bad, But just start easy. Don't throw half maybe not, a ton of cauliflower in there at first. Maybe not, and make sure it blends well in your blender. Maybe not throw in a half a box of spinach in there so that you acclimate to the flavor. It's okay if today you only put a few leaves and tomorrow you add more leaves and you acclimate your taste buds up a little bit. So I remember when I was doing my juice feast and I was eating a gallon to a gallon and a half of juices a day. At first, I used a little bit more fruit. Towards the end of it, I was trying to use less and less and less fruit, making vegetable juices with just a little hint of apple or a little hint of orange, so that I could have just a little knock on the bitter, right? But I was able to stair-step it down by the end of it, which is cool. Your taste buds will learn. My daughter, 5 years old, was saying, does everybody have the same taste buds? And I said, well, yes, but your taste buds are trainable. So you can train your palate to appreciate textures. We talked about that at our last Macrofix food coaching class that we do every other week. I think we have one coming up this week, as a matter of fact, on Thursday. And so we should post that in the chat box for those live viewers. But tune in, because we do a food coaching program to help people learn how to blend and modify foods. So we took spinach, for example, and we ate it raw, and we had the crowd taste that. What do you taste? We talked about it last week. What do you like? What don't you like? What can you tolerate? And what's kind of unique about it that you're like, hey, that's kind of cool? And then we did that with arugula. And then we mixed spinach and arugula together. And then we mixed spinach and arugula together with this little chicken dish that had celery and carrots and stuff packed up all in it. And it was like loaded with vegetables, no dressings, and everybody loved it. And so it's just amazing food combining and how powerful foods can be as an individual, but as we combine them, how much more palatable and delightful they can be to your taste buds. And this is the things that we can do to help curb those appetites towards away from sugar, is slowing down and appreciating textures. What is it that you like about certain foods, don't like about certain foods, even the ones that you do know you love? I mean, if you put a Starburst in your mouth and you go, what does I like about this? Well, number one, that punch, that initial it makes you want to kind of make your cheeks go together. Then there's the tackiness of it, right? It's kind of like something chewy, and then you're thinking, man, it just kind of lingers, that sugar in your mouth. But the problem with that is it's purely adulterated sugar. It's doing nothing to serve your cells. It's actually feeding the bugs. It's feeding the wrong team. So you've got two teams in your body. You've got the good guys, the cells that are regenerating you, and then you've got the bad guys, the organisms that are destroying you. Well, who do you want to feed, Gardy?
I'm going to not the bugs.
Not the bugs.
Right.
Can you live without bugs? No, you can't. They're in there. Your body right now, you're swallowing staph right now. Sorry, folks. You're not going to get rid of streptococcal, staphylococcal infections. You're not going to get rid of yeast and fungus. You're not going to get rid of the parasites completely, because your body leverages their labor force. The body leverages them and uses them as a form of payment to work for the body in a detox, trash eliminating way. It's just whenever the trash elimination system is clogged up that these guys become rogue agents. They rebel, they go on strike, and then they allow tissues to be affected by the rotting materials that are not being processed out appropriately. They're not doing their job anymore. Not only that, these bugs begin to rob the body of B vitamins, different iron sources, zinc, magnesium, manganese. It starts tearing down the essential fatty acid bilayer in every cell, so the cells don't communicate well. So basically, it just becomes a old, run-down neighborhood that is no longer seemingly safe place for living, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's when you start seeing symptoms. You start seeing disease. You start seeing things that don't smell right, literally. Maybe you're emitting excessive amounts of body odor. Maybe you have hyperhidrosis and your sympathetics are in overdrive and your body just sweats like a stuck pig, and you're thinking, that's fixable? I know 4 people that had hyperhidrosis growing up, or I've got it, or whatever. And there's rhyme and reason. The body doesn't do things by chance and by accident. What symptoms are you struggling with? Have you gone to my website and taken some of our symptom surveys to figure out where you're at fatigue-wise, where you're at with sleep? I mean, right now, watching my wife go through the detox and myself go through some of the programs that I'm doing cleansing-wise, I'm and her are noticing how deep our sleep is. Deep, like almost startling awake, like, where am I? Like, whoa, that was cool. I closed my eyes, I woke up, and it's morning. That's a deep sleep. I don't even, how in the world did my body shut down that hard? Well, did my body shut down? Just my conscious mind shut down. So if you're a quote-unquote light sleeper, that means you've got toxicity buildup. And you're literally watching movie reels if you're dreaming at night, nightmares if you're being horrified or terrified in your dreams at night. If you're waking up hot and sweaty, your body is overheating because it's overworked. That's all stuff that can be fixed, not because you're getting old. Let's stop blaming the symptom patterns on aging. I heard a movie quote the other day, Tom Selleck in a Western, and he goes, Uncle Jack, whiskey gets blamed for a lot of things it didn't do. Age gets blamed for a lot of things it didn't do. It's our habits. It's our choices. Remember, it's your life, it's your health, it's your choice. So we've got to get back to, is it the end goal to reduce the sugar? Yes, it is. But it's to reduce the sugar. I don't know that getting sugar completely out of our diets is realistic for most people. So how do we make this functional? We have to start doing cleansing programs. We got to start taking better care of the liver. We got to start debugging the body. We've got to start looking at these immunological burdens that you are carrying. So even though you don't have symptoms right now, guys, you have a bug problem. If you are craving sugar, if you reach for soda, if you reach for a snack, if you reach for a box of cookies, if you come home at the end of a day depressed and you eat an entire bag of chips, half of a Coke float, and all of a sudden you go, I feel better. That's the bugs talking.
I haven't had a Coke float in a long time, Dr. Chapa. And, whenever you were talking about that Reese's, you sure were, describing it awfully well. It made me wonder if you had a Starburst rather.
What I have to do is I have to listen to other podcasts of people describe their sugar addictions so that I can appreciate, oh, yeah, that's an experience that I used to remember.
Yeah, I got you.
I
got you.
And because I truly, I look at, I can walk past the donuts. I can walk past, I saw this on Sunday. We're at church. I always find it interesting. We want to feed our families and our kids spiritually and raise them up right in the church and let them know all about God and how cool God is, and but then we feed them sugar, right?
Yeah.
And then they're space cadets. They can't remember nothing, and then they act like banshees, and we're like, what in the world? We got to tame this down.
Yeah, I've said this before, and there's people on staff that I've talked to. I said, if they ever let me make a decision around here, first thing we're doing is we're getting rid of the donuts. The church is looking kind of, we need to firm up a little bit.
I agree with you. And, that's a hard, bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah.
But aren't we the people of God? Shouldn't we be the model? Shouldn't we look a little different?
Last week we had our conference, right? And I think it was Tuesday. We had a minister that was talking, and he was sharing some of his testimony, some of the stuff that he's done. But then he went on to this different section about food. And I was like, man, Dr. Chapa would be up here being like, thank you, amen, amen, and talking about cooking and his wife and him and her being, very strategic about it. And a lot of people, especially ministers, because you travel so much, you kind of let that fall. That's not your focus. You're focused on other things. But if you aren't healthy, then you can't fulfill what you're supposed to do.
No doubt about it. And when you're traveling, it's hard.
Right.
Because when fast food is on every corner and you go to a local area to do your business, typically a vendor of sorts or somebody wants to take you where? Out to eat, to the finest of the fine. And they load you up typically on something that you shouldn't be consuming that's feeding the bugs. And the more we feed the bugs throughout our day, throughout our week, throughout our month, we find that our symptoms are coming. And so what I'm learning is that if you're not actively de-weeding your garden of the bugs and managing your bugs, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be overrun, and you're going to have disease, and you're going to have dis-ease. You're going to have symptom patterns you weren't genetically born with. You're going to have headaches. You're not going to be able to get out of bed in the morning. You're not going to be able to fall asleep at night. You're going to have tossing and turning. You're going to have, memory problems throughout the day. You're not going to remember your task that you needed to get done yesterday that's folding onto today because you can't stay focused yesterday to keep up everything going today. There's just so many things that's happening all around my patients that my clinic is showing me. And what I'm seeing, the ones that start to incorporate these cleanses, whether it's a 10-day, whether it's a 21-day, whether it's liver, whether it's kidney, whether it's lymphatic, whether it's bowel, whether it's the debugging process, whatever it is that we decide together is your next logical step. Those that follow those practices are the ones that are seeing the change, the ones that are more able to say, I don't even crave the sugar as much. And frankly, I have energy, and frankly, I feel good, and frankly, I haven't had symptoms in 2 weeks. And I got this, one lady, she comes in and she has to have shots of Botox, if you will, in her neck because the tension is so bad that she's trying to, minimize the effects of tension headaches. And so I'm really curious to see, as this patient evolves, if we don't see, I've only seen her a couple times, and but to see just in the last 2 weeks, she's not had any tension headaches. Okay, well, that's just 2 weeks. But what if we could turn 2 weeks into 4, 4 into 8, 8 into 12, 12 into a year? You know what I mean? What if it's possible? And what if we could do it so subtly where we don't turn your life upside down, avoiding sugar day in and day out and making you worry about how difficult it is around the holidays or going to a wedding or going here or there. You see, if we can debug the garden, if we can till up the land, your desire for the bugs food source goes away. Why you crave what you crave is because you're overrun. And so if you can change the soil. We are experts at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center in changing the soil. What are we growing, Gardy? Healthy organs. Healthy organs that synergize and work together so that all those tissues emit a healthy vibrancy and a radiant energy, that vim, vigor, and vip that allows them to age gracefully. How about that for 3 LY words? I'm pretty excited.
I like it.
My grammar friends would be proud of me.
Hey, earlier you mentioned some of the quizzes and information that you have on your website. How can somebody go? I mean, where's your website at?
JustLiveWell.com. And if you just go Google us and you go up there, you can just type in, there's under one of the links, I'll have them posted in the chat box. But there's a link to all, like I think 5 different quizzes we have. You know, everything from sleep to allergies to energy. And the whole goal is to help you just start assessing. I have a guy on a detox right now, and he goes, this is what I've learned so far. I'm only, 15 days into the program, and he goes, I realize how disconnected I am with what my body's been telling me. I thought I was healthier, he says. And the detox has revealed to him he's not as healthy as he thought he was. He has more symptoms, but although he feels better in general, he's lost about 15 pounds. He's cruising down the rung well, and he's realizing he's got a lot more work to do. It's not a one and done, fix. It's a process that we all need to purge our homes, don't we? We all need to change our air filters regularly, don't we? We all need to rotate those tires and change the oil, don't we? The maintenance on everything. I used to think that, wouldn't it be nice if it was a one and done? But it's just nobody's teaching the maintenance. Nobody teaches us. The dentist industry did it. Hey, how many times you got to go take care of your teeth?
Twice a year.
Twice a year. Now, really, some of y'all need to go in there 4 times a year, just letting you know, But again,
Yeah.
Bad breath, by the way, is what? It's a symptom. You don't have to have bad breath. You could be having pockets that are swollen with infection that are holding food. What? You telling me that's fixable, Dr. Chapa? Yes, I see it. You're telling me that my halitosis doesn't have to be halitosis? You don't have to have stank breath and breathe fire whenever you're talking to people day in and day out. If you got a talking job, it's all from your liver. It's a dirty liver, and it's backing up into your lymphatics. And the lymphatics are like, I can't stay here. I got to push this out my lungs. And that's why you're also snoring at night, and you wake up in the morning feeling like a smoker because you've been snoring all night long because your body is exiting trash and debris out the wrong channel. It's supposed to go out your bowels first thing in the morning, not breathing fire, toxins out your lungs. Although your body will use that pathway, it just is very hard on your body. And that's why I've got, spouses that will come in and say, I don't sleep good because my spouse stops breathing at night and it scares me. Well, I think I would be scared too.
Right. Yeah.
My problem is I sleep so dang good that if my wife stopped breathing at night, I wouldn't know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but here's the reality. If you have those as symptoms, what if it is something as simple as decluttering, purging your body of the excess waste and debris? What if, you need to be mindful of your sugar? You should do a food log and look, how much sugar do you consume day in and day out? How much? Do you know? The average American, they've done studies on this. It's 150 pounds of sugar per person per year. And that just comes in the form of grain products, meaning the bread, the rice, the cereal, the pasta. The stuff that converts into sugar. That's scary, right? Well, what about the cookies, the candies, the cakes? All the Thanksgiving pies coming. All the December pies coming, and the wonderful candy canes, and the little cutesy treats we get at the fast food joints, right? The holiday special lovely ones, and that adds up to 250 to 300 pounds of sugar per person per year.
If you combine them?
If you combine all that.
Okay.
That is a truckload. Can you lift 300 pounds, Gardy?
No.
I can't. I mean, maybe on a good day.
If I gained a little over 100 pounds, I could.
Yeah. We could practice.
We could
practice.
Stand up, right.
That's a lot of weight.
Right.
Sugar. Could you imagine putting 300 pounds on the squat rack and pulling that, or squatting that, or doing something with that? I mean, Dude, most people wouldn't be able to touch it, but yet that's what they're putting in their body as a fuel source for their body to regenerate itself, for their body to heal and recover. Well, I got news for you. It just won't happen. It's mistake colossal. It's a bad idea. We have to see that, yes, we need to reduce the amount of sugar we're consuming, but again, not beating ourselves up if you get into it from time to time because you've been diligent about what? Managing your garden. And that's exciting. That gives us something that, hey, we're responsible for taking care of this earth suit. Remember, I beseech thee therefore, brethren, Romans 12:1, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living sacrifice. There's something you need to do. You need to sacrifice something. So at some point, you can fast it off, the sugar. Some point, you just need to be diligently tilling the land, making sure the soil's right.
Here's a comment I want to read. This is from Alexandra, and I think I know what you're going to say, but she said, I got my weekly dose of Chapa later tonight at my wedding anniversary dinner. I'm going to be thinking about everything Chapa said about sugar. The sugar guilt is coming on.
And that's not what we don't want you to be guilty. We want you to have fun. Hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
But that's just it. What if you've done such a good job all last week preparing for tonight that there is no guilt? Does that make sense?
I know, yes.
Like, what if you're on a detox, right? 21-day detox with Chop. The ultimate detox program. Remember, it's coming, guys. Put your orders in prior, getting ready for the Black Friday sale. We're very excited about that for you guys. And here's the deal. What if you're on day 12 and you just fall off the wagon and you have, protein too early, or you have too much protein that day, and because you were just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't make it, and I did make it, but now I need it. And let's say maybe you had some, other, no sugar per se, but maybe you just overate proteins in the whole meal. Because the whole idea of the detox is to teach you portion control, right? It's to teach you that you don't need a plate and a half of food. You don't need 2 plates of food. You don't need 10 ounces of meat. You just don't. I know it's.
But I want it.
I want it. I know.
Right.
Remember, what did we talk about before? You can't eat what you want, anytime you want, and look like you want. It just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Well, the same would go with you can't eat what you want, anytime you want, and feel like you want. There's a price to pay. And so if we can teach you better food practices, again, our macro fix coaching food program, that is legit. It is so cool to see the people going through that are learning to put the boundaries up, to know, the bumper walls are in place so that they don't drive off the rails. People we learn to drive through, trial and error and practice, and that's what the whole point of our food coaching program is to help people find a way to know the rules of food. And that's what happens after, 90 days. That's what happens after 6 months, 9 months on the protocol is people go, hey, I have patterns and routines. I know what's been working. And I, got a lady yesterday. She come in. She's lost 10 pounds in the last 2 months, and that's exciting. We got some other people that they're still struggling a little bit in their weight, but they're starting to feel better in other areas because not only are we changing the food game, clinical nutrition, we're doing the work to debug and cleanse their tissues and make those tissues soil better so that it regenerates better. And so there's just so many cool things going on at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, and we're excited to see those changes. And so no guilt. We don't want guilt. We want you to feel okay whenever you're out and about because you've been doing so well. And if you do happen to get into the holiday treats or the fast food yummies, guess what? Maybe you don't eat the entire box. Maybe you have a bite or two just to get your fix, quote unquote fix. But now you go, you know what? What is it that I like? What is it that I don't like? What's unique about this? And what can I do without? Maybe you start tasting the grease. Maybe you start realizing, you know what, not only am I tasting the grease, I know because Chapa said, this is garbage grease. This is the grease that clogs up my liver and clogs up my cells and makes my skin, start to develop, that oily look, that acne look, that, that inflamed swelling look. And I'm just amazed, truly amazed. Had a fella come in yesterday he's inflamed every time I see him. I said, you know what? If we're not going to do anything, we're going to do this. We're going to just focus on debugging the body, because I can't get him to change. And so he comes in yesterday just because he's willing to take some subs. I very targeted some bug protocols, and guess what? He adjusted great yesterday. He looked like he lost 10 pounds. Last Thursday, when I was leaving for the week, I had a lady on 9 medications, 1 point away from dialysis, which is a kidney disorder where basically the kidneys are shutting down. And the daughter was really worried, that I wouldn't be able to work on her or get her out of pain because she lives in pain. I mean, her body is inflamed to no end. And I, too, was mind-boggled with just a very small regimen of products, B vitamins, minerals, essential fats, and a debugger. And we got not debugger, but debugger.
Debugger, yes.
Yeah, we got the debuggers in there. And those, in 1 week, I think she lost 10 pounds because she had so much crud her body was willing to get rid of. How did that happen? She didn't change her diet drastically. She's 73 years old, and I get my hands on her, and I'm start working. I'm like, this is a good spine. These are good joints. Like, they're just inflamed. They're just on fire. Week 1. Week 2, I'm like, I think I might be able to adjust that. Boom. Adjusted it. Perfect. I tried this one. Boom. Adjusted it. Perfect. We're going to keep seeing changes like that. Had another lady started her on basic vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, and started cleansing some tissues that needed it. You can't just debug everybody because you got to make sure the exit channels are open, right? Because you don't want all that sludge and pus and trash going into a pocket of area for excretion and not have a place to go, because it'll rot, it'll putrefy, it'll irritate. And already we're seeing in just 2 visits, pain that she's suffered with for years is already changed drastically to the point where she can sit in certain types of chairs without as much pain. Her pain scale is 50% down. So it's a process. Sometimes it's fast. Sometimes we've been in these holes for a really long time, and it takes a little bit longer. But the reality is anything that your body can develop, it can undevelop. So at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're always looking for ways to train you up, give you the tools to affect yourself, your family, those you care about most, and spread the word about health and wellness to all that you come into contact with. That's what the season's about of Thanksgiving. That's what the season is about Christmas. It's about spreading that joy, right? We want to spread the joy of health. We want to spread the idea that you don't have to suffer with the ails of aging. Let's stop blaming aging for stuff it's not doing. The clock is just ticking. It just is, right? Let's change us. Let's make 1 degree of change today, 2 degrees of change today, and see where we might find ourselves in a week, where we might find ourselves in a month, where we might be in 3 months. And you're going to be primed and ready if you start now. Our pastor was talking on Sunday about this is the new year right now. You got a 2-month head start. Let's start preparing and expecting great things coming 2022 today, not tomorrow, not on January 1st. Let's stop this. Oh, well, I'm going to eat like crazy for the next 2 months because I have a green light. No. Let's be mindful. Let's reduce the impact that sugar's been having on your life. So if you normally eat 3 soda cans a day, let's see if you can drop it to 2. If you do 10 soda cans a day, just drop it to 9. And people go, that's ludicrous. That won't make a difference. You'll be shocked. If you put less poison in more frequently, your body can keep up. And that's the whole idea, is making sure that the body can keep up with the demands of the day, the demands of the week, and the demands of the month. And that determines the acceleration of that aging process. And so your life, your health, your choice, goals, what do you want your life to look like after you've done built it, creates purpose. That purpose drives you to make a decision. That decision can be influenced positively if you surround yourself with the right tribe. At Living Well, we want to be your tribe. We are your tribe. We're here to give you hope, to help give you education so that you know how to live better, be better, and stay better, 1 bite at a time. So every week, we're here with KHEA Radio. We love being live on the show. We thank you for all your questions, and we're excited for those that are going to tune in later. Where are they going to tune in, Gardy?
You can go to Apple Podcasts. You can also go to Spotify, search Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. On the Apple side, you can search Just Live Well. Either way, it'll pop up. You can see the logo. Make sure you subscribe. You can go back and listen to past episodes. There's a lot of great content on there. Dr. Chapa, there was one more question.
Let's hit it.
And, okay, a couple things. So Signfly Graphics, that's Tim. He said, hey, tell Dr. Chapa I said, what's up?
What up, my boy?
Okay, and then The other thing I wanted to touch on, I didn't get a chance to read this, but from the Living Well account, it says, speaking of sugar, we're planning a holiday baking without refined sugar class for Tuesday, December 7th at 6:30. Save the date. And then just a reminder, the My Macro Fix food coaching class is this Thursday, November the 18th at 6:30. You can also go to the Eventbrite link if you're watching on Facebook. It's in the comments, and get the link or attend live as well. And so here's one more comment, and Conrad asked this really early in the show, and I pinned it because I wanted to make sure that we had it. So he said, here's a question. Why can my body handle a juicy and tasty Whataburger, double meat Whataburger, but it can't handle a homemade burger? What are your thoughts?
So my initial thoughts is there's stomach acids and enzymes that he's having. He's got digestive trouble. You should be able to handle real food versus fake food. The fact that he can handle that the fake food better than he can handle real food is because the fake food is spiking his adrenaline. He's actually getting an adrenaline rush off of it. So his fight or flight responses kick in, and his body doesn't show him the inflammatory effects like it does with the real quote unquote, food that he's choosing to eat. So I would be curious to know, what are those symptoms? What does he feel when he eats the homemade burger and that are what he calls disruptive or things that he can't handle? And so my first knee-jerk reaction is liver congestion. Stomach acids possibly need to be addressed or looked at. Because if he's eating fast food, he's forcing his body's stomach acids to basically do all the work, because the food he's eating doesn't have any enzymes in it, right? And so I again would go enzymes, stomach acids, and liver congestion. His body's not breaking down the real food or the fake food, but he's not feeling the fake food because of the adrenaline rush he's getting. It's just like sugar. It's just coming. He's getting a different type of hit off of the food, and literally I say hit like a drug, because food can be, and fast food is a drug. It is chemically designed for you to crave it. It's designed for you to keep coming back to it. It is designed to trick you into thinking it's real, even though it's there's no nutritional value in it.
All right. Well, thank you. Okay, there's another thing, and I just pinned this comment if you're on Facebook. And I saw this posted from the Living Well Clinical Nutrition Facebook page yesterday, but the Black Friday sale. So 10 to 20% off of all supplements. That's the sale.
It's true.
On November 26th. You can go ahead and order whatever you want now. It's info@justlivewell.com. Send an email there. And there's also a link where you can find out more about the sale in the Facebook comments.
And we do that, guys, because we want you guys to know that we love health and wellness. We want to make it easier for you. We want it to be something that you can count on. And we know that, insurance doesn't cover things like health and wellness. It's very sad. And we want to give as much of an opportunity for people to take advantage of discount pricing and make sure that they're getting everything they can get with the Black Friday sale. We've done this several years in a row, and we're just excited to be able to offer that again this year to you guys. So it does help us if you put in your orders early. It prevents back orders. It also allows for the congestion in getting stuff done on Friday to be alleviated. So we just want to we're so excited to offer it, but definitely put your orders in early, and help us create an amazing Thanksgiving for you guys.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM.